awarded to a game for having the most frustrating gameplay. And with this particular category, we've all probably interpreted the brief a little differently, but the idea is which game played like a dog's breakfast. And we've nominated Beyond Two Souls, Dead Space 3 for the PC, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, Path of Exile, and Dota 2.
There's a reason. There's a reason. I swear.
Do you play a Marauder and try to leap slam everything?
No, the gameplay, it's not... To be honest, every game I played this year, none of them were frustrating in gameplay for me. They were all pretty well. My reasoning is it had probably the biggest learning curve out of every single game I'd ever played because of the fact that the skill tree was the size of, a freaking star
1,300
map.
passive points.
And then getting used to all the other things with, like, what gem does what, how to mix gems, how this works. That was the frustrating part. Gameplay was fine, so I may have
definitely understandable. The developers, when they originally set out to release Path of Exile, they said, your first character will not be the character that you finish the game with, because of that exact reason. Like, you will just go into each individual point and you're like, oh, that looks cool, that looks cool. Oh, my character is now dying and I can't do anything about it. Oh, well, re-roll, start again, go to a build guide and find the best one for that character.
See, the thing is now I understand it and I've got used to it. I love it and I think it's really well done, so everyone's different. But getting used to it, and the first time you open it with little to no tutorial, you're like, what the hell is going on?
As my nomination for Metal Gear Rising is pretty soft, really, because I didn't really encounter too many games that had very difficult controls. Metal Gear Rising had a parry and countering mechanic that was often difficult but not impossible to pull off, so you had to learn it. But once you got it, like you were saying, Chris, it makes sense and it feels
natural.
You feel kind of skillful. Yeah, but used to fighting games, you'd probably pick up the system very quickly. But it was a very intimidating system to master, and you did have to actually master it to get anywhere in the game. So I experienced a lot of frustrating deaths, and at first the boss fight seemed impossible until I was able to sort of figure it all out. And so out of all the games that I played this year, I think it had the most potential for breaking the game entirely, and probably did for many players. But that's basically why I put it up there for my nomination. Next. Koshi, tell us about Beyond Two Souls.
First of all, the whole control system was used on the right stick, and even that didn't work properly, which was kind of frustrating. So a game that was hyped up so much to be this interactive adventure of, you can do this and this and this, and it turned out to be, push the right stick this way, oh, hang on, it didn't work, try it again, and again, and again. And it just really didn't sit well with me. All the other games that I've played seem to at least have a decent either combat or moving system, and this one just seemed to fail for me in every point and turn.
See, I feel like that particular game for you is self-inflicted, because I played Fahrenheit, and I could have told you that anything by that guy
going in.
sucked.
Yeah, I played that and Heavy Rain,
Rain.
I thought it sucked.
The story of it, the gameplay was shit.
No-brainer, really, in my book, but there you go. Let's move on to Nat. Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
You played this on the PS3, is
yeah,
that correct?
I'm a sucker. Playing that on PS3 I just found to be a very unenjoyable experience.
Yep.
The way they try and condense menus onto that screen is maddening. So get this. I turn that on, I go into the first town, and once it goes through all its 400 hours of cutscenes to get to the point where you can actually play the game. Oh, it's so good. The first thing they present you with is, like, as you go to run around with your character, you've just got toolbars everywhere, but because the screen real estate is so crushed in, it's very difficult to call that stuff up on a controller, or at least according to the developers it is. They've put it all in there, but it's barely on the screen, so you're trying to read something and it's halfway off the bloody screen, so you have to go in and fiddle around with elements to move it on so that way you can actually read anything that's on there. And then beyond that, they add all your skills and stuff to, you basically press L1 or L2 or R1 or R2, and then either one of the D-pad buttons or one of the square, circle, triangle, whatever buttons. It's insanely frustrating and terribly laid out.
Well, I mean, you're condensing an MMO which is meant to use all the keyboard shortcuts on your PC into a into a console using a 15-button controller.
Yeah.
But DC Universe Online was perfect. Like, it's not perfectly fine, but it was far more serviceable than FF14. Like, it just seemed like they developed it for PC, and I'm assured that the game is quite nice on there, but for PS3, yeah.
Let's move on to another game. We've got Darcy, who's put forward Dota 2. Why did you nominate this game, Darcy?
I suppose this could be, I may have misunderstood the award in that it's not exactly Valve's fault.
You're a big
that
Dota
this game
1
is
player?
frustrating. No, I'm not actually. But this game, the highs are very high, but the lows are just beyond anything I've ever experienced in a game. If you get a bad team who are shit-talking each other and all this stuff, it's just like the most frustrating thing, especially if you as an individual player are going really well and you're let down by the rest of your team and then they yell at you when you tell them to do things.
Welcome
it's just,
to all
the most
MOBAs.
frustrating experience ever.
Any MOBA will tell you
Yep.
if you do one thing wrong, it's all your fault and you should go die in a hole.
Wow, what a friendly community. Okay, we've saved, I think, the best for lucky last. You've nominated Dead Space 3, which came out last year for consoles, but came out this year for the PC. Did they not fix some of the problems that we kind of complained about?
The controls were just terrible. Like, that game reeked of a console port. I mean, like, if you're trying to move around, or, like, especially in combat, there was always some form... It felt like you had to follow a sequence to execute all your moves and whatnot. So, like, take example, if you were jumping around or, like, trying to get behind a wall or something like that, you'd have to, like, press space to... get below, and then press space again to jump over, and then maybe press space again to latch onto another side. Like, for a PC environment, that's not right.
Cool.
It works really well on console, though.
Yeah,
Well,
I had a lot of
relatively
friends
well on
who
console.
said, it's definitely a console game. Nearly the whole Dead Space franchise is just one big console dedicated game.
A console gangbang. There you go. I'm really just kind of frustrated now because we've just talked about some really
Or a
bad
loser.
games. Now we've got to name a winner. So what do you reckon? Or a loser? Winner of a losing.
I think possibly
winner of the
Final
worst
Fantasy
bunch.
14 would take it since, I guess, they might have fixed it now, but when it was released, it sounds like it was pretty terrible.
Oh, it was disgustingly bad. It was one of many things at that launch that was poor. And don't worry, we'll get around to talking about its launch later.
Hooray.
But
I like the notes, yeah.
Horrifying.
Perfect.
I wrote a song about it.
Really?
I should say I rewrote a song about it. Me and a friend redid. I'll get around to it when the award comes up.
Guess what the intro of the podcast is going to be?
Okay. Sounds good. So are we, is anyone else going to vote for Final Fantasy 14? I haven't played either game. I was going to put my vote towards sort of Two Souls because I really
I think a lot of people
developer.
do. I think the whole point of Beyond Two Souls or any game made by David Cage is they want
it's
you
terrible.
to take the control away from you and just put you in a corner while they play their interactive experience.
I
Yeah.
want to do that. I'll just watch a fucking movie.
Okay, so how many votes does Final Fantasy 14 have at the moment? Is that 3?
I can't vote for it because I did only play the PC port, so I didn't experience it first.
Okay, so do we want to switch?
Okay.
I could easily switch my vote to Beyond Two Souls because
No, I think Final Fantasy 14 has more votes anyway. I'm voting purely on prejudice and hatred of a previous game.
good reason.
Doesn't really count.
If my words stand for nothing else, at least know that I sat through that abject misery so you wouldn't have to.
Well, I think Final Fantasy 14, is that the consensus?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Congratulations, Square Enix.
You did it. Good on you, guys.
This next award is rather ochre, and it is the John Law's Golden Microphone Award for Best Voice Acting. And if you're from overseas and listening to us, you probably have no idea who John Laws is. So let me just explain. He is a radio broadcaster with a long history in talkback radio, while other talkback personalities are more known for their vitriol and politics. John Laws is well known for his deep and sonorous voice. So it's an appropriate thing to consider because basically, in my opinion, in 2013 has been a very rich year for voice acting.
yeah.
And you can tell because many of our nominations are overlapping. We've nominated Ashley Johnson for her portrayal of Ellie in The Last of Us, Troy Baker for his portrayal of Joel in The Last of Us. We've got 2 nominations for the cast of Grand Theft Auto 5, And finally, for Kevin Brighting for his role as the narrator in the Stanley Parable.
That's a nice one. I do like that
Yeah.
one. That went right over my head.
Well, who nominated that? Does somebody...
That was me.
Okay, why don't you take us through
Alrighty.
that one?
To be honest, it's like you said. There was a number of fantastic voice acting experiences this year. I just thought it was important to kind of spread the field a bit, and there was possibly no better example this year of narration saving and entirely creating a game than the Stanley Parable. So the Stanley Parable was originally a mod for Half-Life 2, as just about every game on Steam is. That started with the idea of gaming is or can be a very linear experience, and the idea was that the narrator would tell you to do something and you could do it or you could not. If you didn't do it, the game would mold and change and set you new tasks to get you back on path from where you originally came from, and it led to a number of different endings depending on how off the beaten path you went. When the game was actually released this year, it included a whole bunch of alternative endings for you to be able to discover across this. You're basically an office worker. Think the guy from Office Space. And the narrator says, Stanley got up and noticed that no one is around, so you walked down a hallway and you went in the left door. You're presented with two doors, and you can go in the left or the right door. If you go in the left door, the narration continues on. If you go in the right door, he admonishes you a little bit, continues telling the story, and sets the pace for Stanley to explore the facility. It's strangely enough, despite all the choices that there is, it is still a very linear experience. It's just you basically pressing forward and listening to this man tell you about what's going on, but it's very cleverly written. There's plenty of player choice, and the narration itself is just sublime. It's bastion levels of good.
Well, let's jump into our Last of Us nominations. Brendan and Kosha, you've both nominated Ashley Johnson for the portrayal of Ellie.
Yep.
What?
You want to go first, Brendan?
Pretty much, like, her voice is just so believable. When you place it for a 14-year-old character. Like, I mean, what kind of other characters can pull that off in video games?
Yeah, Ellie's quite central to the way in which the story develops. She's actually the, screenwriters call it the inciting incident. So she's the reason why the whole game sort of exists, and she's integral to that journey, both physical and emotional for Joel. So yeah, you're absolutely correct there.
I think the best thing about it too is that I think she's like 25 or she's 20s or 30s. I don't know how old she is, but she's a lot older than 13, 14, however old Ellie is. And it's amazing to see that she can change her acting to a style that affects a 14-year-old. During the game, you can sense when Ellie is pissed off. She'll be distant with you. She'll talk in a different tone that senses that she's got that little bit of hostility that you wouldn't see in just a normal an adult's character, portrayal anyway. So it's good to see that she can be filled with wonder when she sees the giraffes, or she can be angsty and depressed and angry with Joel. I know. Really shows the different sides of the characters.
So that helped enrich the experience for you, Koshu?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It was a nice change to see from the gruff, kind of Nolan Northy style voice actors like your one.
Yeah. So am I going to talk about Troy Baker now? Is that what you're kind of going at?
That's fine, yeah. I was trying to do a segue, but you talked about it.
This is just to ruin all of the segues that you've ruined. So let's talk about Troy Baker. My nomination goes to Troy Baker. I think he's had a pretty stellar year. He's played Batman in Arkham Origins. He's played Booker DeWitt in Bioshock Infinite. But the role that stands out for me is Joel in The Last of Us. And the reason why I picked him is because unlike his contemporary Nolan North, I think Baker's voice acting is a little less distinctive. I like to think of Nolan as the George Clooney of VA work, playing different versions of himself, while Baker is more akin to a great, character actor, like maybe someone like Philip Seymour Hoffman, in my opinion. in his role as Joel, I think it's important to sort of point out that he's not just doing voice acting, but he has to block out all the scenes in a mocap suit, and I think that difference really shows, and I think he's totally deserving of the award. Okay, well, let's move on to another game that I thought had really, really good voice acting, and Chris and Darcy, you both nominated GTA 5, or the cast of GTA 5. Darcy, you've sort of said if you had to pick one, you'd pick Trevor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say that I'm not going to play Last of Us now because I now know there's giraffes in it. That's completely ruined the game for me.
Thanks, Scott.
I'm sorry I spoiled that one section. They're dead, actually.
Double spoilers.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Zombie giraffes. Sorry.
GTA 5, outside of games like Portal and those sort of games, for a game to make me genuinely laugh, this is sort of the writing, but it's also the delivery. Trevor makes you laugh, obviously, because he's just a psychopath, but even, Michael and Franklin and their interactions and all the supporting characters as well, there's just so many funny, absolutely ridiculous scenes, and it's a large part due to the acting. But yeah, Trevor definitely takes the cake. He's just an amazing character and voice actor.
Yeah, see, I didn't actually think I would like Trevor towards the end, but he ended up being my favourite as well, out of all three of them. There you go.
He's just hilarious. The shit that he gets up to when you disappear and come back and decide to play as him, and he's riding alongside the scooter guy.
Those transitions are great, aren't they?
Yeah, buddy. He's a god. There's little else to it.
That is my go-to. That's my go-to memory of GTA 5. It's Scooter Buddy.
I've heard of one where, if you select him, there's one where he has a fender bender with someone else, and he pretty much picks the guy up and just throws him off the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember that one.
What a casual
He's good
response.
like that.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's hash it out. Where are we going to go with this one?
I like the Ellie character, so the portrayal from Ashley Johnson. I really think it's a change in gaming that hasn't been seen either before or done so well. It really should be deserving, in my opinion.
There are 3 votes for The Last of Us, so...
Yeah, I would, but I didn't play it.
Look, I love the Stanley Parable. I'm just glad to see it get talked about, and GTA was incredible. The voice acting specifically is the go-to thing for that game, but I just don't think that there was a game that better exemplifies fantastic voice acting better than The Last of Us, and I believe that Ashley Johnson was the best of anybody in that title.
When?
Well, congratulations, Ashley Johnson. You've won the John Laws Golden Microphone Award for Best Voice Acting for 2013. Yay! I'm really glad about that too, because she copped a lot of flack. I think when
you mean Ellen Page copped a lot of flack?
No,
God, that was
Ellen
good.
Page got angry about it, and then
Kotaku blew up and was like, "Oh, she's so angry." God,
Kotaku was angry about something.
Whoa, about something stupid. Whoa. Hi, Kotaku. Sorry.
Hi,
pay us.
On that note,
we can just do that. Okay.
Speaking of villains in their industries, let's move on to the next award.
What a segue! Send all the Doritos to Brendan Roberts. I'm just going to ruin all of your segues.
Thanks.
Our next award is a category that you may not be entirely familiar with. I'm not sure how many websites actually have this award, but basically for every good protagonist, there is a villain that's pulling the strings, and the Kim Jong-il Memorial Award. Said that out loud. That is ridiculous.
Pretty proud of that one.
That you just pulled him out.
That's
so good.
For the best villain for 2013, basically, it's our next award, and our nominees are Lysandre from Pokemon XY, David from The Last of Us, an eerie and unrecognizable Nolan North, Bloated 12.
I'll explain later.
Okay. No, you can explain first, straight after this. Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and we've got the Garlean Empire from Final Fantasy. So let's go straight to bloater 12, number 12. It's a particular number as well.
The 12th bloater in that game just pissed me off. The end. But no, in all seriousness though, yeah, it's just bloaters in general in The Last of Us. They played a really good, I guess, challenging role towards the game. It's like nearly every time that you encounter one, it's always a pain in the ass to just get your way around it. I guess that's the closest I can think of to being the best villain. Then I realised I saw Nat, you've put David, and I completely forgot about David. So yeah.
I said David because I felt wrong for just saying the cordyceps virus.
Awful.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I like the death scenes the most from the bloaters. The thing that Last of Us did really well is that the death scenes was quick, intense, and it got you back into the game. So I think the bloater, it basically, when it gets to you, you can't defend yourself at all because it's just so massive. It puts its hand over your face, grabs the top jaw, and rips it up towards your eyes, but basically just rips your mouth open entirely.
Horrifying.
Very horrifying the first time it happened to me. It goes black instantly, and then you're back in the game, and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Why don't we move on to you now, because we'll stay in the same universe, and talk to us about Nolan North's sort of undercover cameo.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed David from The Last of Us. However, there will be some mild spoilers here, so keep your ears a little bit closed if you're not keen on hearing that. It's at a certain stage during the game, Ellie's approached by a man and his son, which is David and some other gentleman. And through our course of events, David makes friends with her, and then it turns out that he may sort of kind of want to abduct her because he's a cannibal and he wants to eat her. It's a really slow-burning execution of being a villain. He's such a friendly, nice character up front. You know something's going to go wrong, but you're never quite sure just how deep it's going to go. And the culmination of his evil, and without giving too many spoilers, there's a small showdown in a burning room is fantastic. His voice acting becomes so much more envenomed and bitter, and she is just horrified and scared out of her brain. It's a wonderful performance from a truly evil-seeming character. It's one of The Last of Us is a game that thrives on the idea of exposing the vulnerabilities of the characters, and never does a human seem quite so dangerous as David does in his penultimate scene. It's a really, really great experience, and I thought that once again, another excellent voice acting job done by Nolan North.
It's the introduction of David. Really, it starts a very strong third act for the game, right up until the end. And you're absolutely right. That final sort of confrontation with him is devastating, and
the effects on Ellie specifically are just the what that character sets into motion for the end of that game is just incredible. Like very, very believable, very well delivered.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the Garlean Empire from Final Fantasy.
Yay, that was me.
Was that Chris? Yeah,
There's a reason.
Tell us about the Empire.
Final Fantasy XIV is not its first appearance. It's in quite a few of the Final Fantasy games. But considering this is, for Final Fantasy, for 2013, I figured I'd make it for this one.
How many times has the Empire showed up?
I think 3, just like I'm going by pure muscle memory here, and I haven't looked in quite a while.
That's pretty cool.
They're in a couple. They're not in all of them, obviously, but they're dicks, for lack of a better word. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. They're just massive dicks who seem to enjoy wanting to attempt to destroy the world. But their characters, the main actual antagonists, are easy to love as characters. So they're these massive douche canoes who you want to like. Yeah, who you want to like, but you just can't because you're so evil and stuff.
back
Yeah,
to
get a room,
I
Final
wouldn't-
Fantasy
Wow.
guys. Jeez.
Mm.
You know? Why don't you tell us about Lysandre from Pokemon?
I just like this concept. You know, the Pokemon games have never been that original. When you think of the villains, it's Team Rocket. They want to steal, all the Pokemon, and that's it. Make the world terrible so they can rule it. And this one, it just seems different. They want to make the world. It was a Team Flare headed by
Team Flare.
Lysandra, or what? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and all he wants to do is make the world beautiful, and the way he does this is by destroying it. Yeah, so it's hilarious because the whole Team Flare, like their battle poses are like, look at me, and it's like it's great to see that they can take a little bit of, I guess, silliness and put it into Pokemon that really needed it because it was just lacking. It was just fight that boss, done, and Pokemon X and Y really brought in that extra element of silly. I
guess I've never considered it that way, but. Yeah,
I
that's a
don't
good
think
point.
they could rival Ginyu Force, I have to say. I'm sorry.
I'd like to see that fight.
My only problem with Lysandre and your nomination is that I think it's a bit racist because he's this angry, red-headed guy. I think, give the gingers a break.
Are they a race, though?
No.
I mean, really?
Gingers
Wow.
aren't beautiful,
Wow.
are they?
Wow.
All right,
Okay. I reckon.
I think so. So we're on the FBI hit list, and now we're on the UN list for hate crimes. Wonderful.
Doing well, guys.
2 out of
Doing
7.
well.
We're getting there.
Well, I've got the last nomination, and look, you've all covered some really great villains that people that you really want to punch in the face. They're all people I want to punch in the face. My award.
Or style their hair.
No.
Sorry. His hair's already styled, don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
that came out of nowhere there, Thomas.
Yeah.
My award goes to Senator Armstrong, and he's the mastermind and architect behind the rather ludicrous story in Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, to say the least. So imagine that you've cut your way through dozens of cyborg-enhanced killers only to be faced with a politician at the end of it.
Who would have thought?
I know. It is a Kojima farce on an epic scale of silliness. Senator Armstrong is your entitled middle-class white guy that played college football and is completely evil. So, the final boss fight is also well known among players as nigh impossible to beat, with a protracted fight that makes Avatar seem like a short film. It's fun, it's memorable, it's sarcastic, it's irreverent, and it's completely unexpected. So, Senator Armstrong, you get my vote.
I don't think you could have made a more generic white guy name, like Armstrong. Like, really?
That's what's so great about him. And then he starts talking about his college football days, and you're just like,
Right.
it's amazing.
Oh, so it is a Kojima game.
It's amazing. So let's hash this out. I was going to say that I'm going to actually just switch my vote to David because, sort of talking about, or hearing Nat talk about him has just sort of brought all that stuff back.
Remembering Nolan North is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think my vote has switched as well.
Yeah, my vote goes to David.
The difference from when you first meet him to the final encounter is just
Ridiculous.
It's so well earned too. What happens in that final encounter, like it's very visceral, but you want it to happen. So yeah.
All I'm
I think
learning
that's a
from
good
this
thing.
entire thing is that I really need to go play Last of Us.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
It's very good.
Yep.
I have it on PS3.
First couple hours aren't great, but
Yeah.
the end of it's fantastic.
A little bit slow to start.
Yeah, I was originally pressured by Koshi and Eddie to finish the game, and they did a wonderful job at pressuring me into finishing it. Yeah,
Peer
well,
pressure.
thanks,
Pressure.
guys.
It works.
Yep.
Well, congratulations, Nolan North. You've won another award.
Yeah.
It's actually a cool award. It's the Kim Jong-il Memorial Award for Best Villain for 2013.
Like who would have thought that he'd win an award for being a villain? Suck that, Nathan.
We're just over halfway now, and we're at the Breakfast Club 2 award for most unnecessary sequel.